Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Never Mind the Buy Box. My name is Natalie, and this afternoon I am joined by Tom Parkinson from Fast Track FBA. Hi, Tom. How are you? That's you.
Hi,
Right
I'm good. I'm good. I
Good.
have coffee. I'm a happy man.
Good. I am pleased to hear it. Just give us an insight. What time is it, and where are you in the world?
Mexico City, 6 a.m. in the morning. Hashtag excited.
Hashtag excited as you can be at 6 o'clock in the morning. Well, saying that, I get pretty excited at 6 o'clock in the morning because that's my most optimal time to work anyway. But there's always weirdos like me for sure that like that kind of time. So I'm just going to log into the comments. I want to say hello to everyone. Tom loves his coffee. Jay says, how do? Give us a like, give us a hello, say hi to Tom, welcome him at this ungodly hour. So I'm just going to jump into the comments so I can see everybody's names. We're gonna dive deep. I'm gonna grill Tom on everything. No, I'm not.
Thanks.
We're gonna have a
You
good
said it's going to be a nice chat.
It is going to be a nice chat. I promise. It's not going to be. It's going to be an Oprah chat. It's not going to be like a Piers Morgan chat.
No, that's all right. I don't mind.
No, I know. So lots of people. Hayden, it's been a while. Here he is. That's what they're saying. Julia, hi, Tom. Lorraine's joined us as well. So any questions as we're going along, obviously pop them in the comments. I'm trying to keep an eye on this group and the comments in the other group as well. Give myself too much of a task, but we will get there, fingers crossed. But if you've got any questions, like I said, just post them in the comment as we go along. Brilliant. I'm just going to go on mute on this one so it doesn't go crazy. Two things. So Tom, you've been in Mexico now for a while. I remember the last time we spoke about that this was going to be somewhere where you foresaw, staying for not an indefinite period of time, but obviously, short to medium. Has that changed? Is it still the place where you want to be worldwide, running the Fast Track empire?
Empire, I love it. I think it's a beautiful city. Always mid 20 degrees C. The American time zone works really, really well, and I can get a 30-minute Uber for like £5. So it's £5. It's like really cheap. So and I live literally smack bang in the center. Like I like just literally just see that window right there. I walked out, like just down there is like 20 restaurants and like the very center of kind of the tourist area. So I love it. I think it's great. Interesting enough, if you've been following a lot of other people on the kind of like Amazon world, a lot of them have come to Mexico City recently. I went out with Gavin. I went out with Saros, who's a $10 million seller, and Roma the Roma. We all had steak literally just Friday gone, and a lot of people popped over and they're like, wow, it's amazing, like it's really good. And so I think for me personally, it's still an amazing city. I still really enjoy it. I will still travel. Right now this year I've got a lot going on in regards to like managing the UK shutdown, should we say. But like I probably don't see myself kind of like upping sticks and moving to like Thailand, should we say. I've been there, I've done it, but I if anyone gets a chance, come to Mexico City. It's an incredible city, like really, really, really nice. So yeah, I'll be here, but I'll travel a lot, especially into the US.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives you that passport to the US essentially, right? So it makes the US really kind of accessible. What is it? 2 hours to Florida, maybe?
Yeah, it's about that, 2 hours in Houston, and you can get anywhere really, which is good. And I wouldn't mind doing Latin America, and I've learned to salsa dance. I'm really happy with that.
Yes. Well, I think the last conversation we had, you were just starting. Now that I hear that you are, because obviously Johnny's over there as well. So Johnny's back in Mexico City. He got back a couple of days ago, I think, after being Mr. Worldwide and traveling. It's hilarious, honestly. We play location roulette with him. Is going somewhere else. So whenever I pop up on a meeting, I'm like, Johnny, where are you? And he's like, oh, I'm in Colombia. And I'm like, yeah, but you were in like Austin a little while ago. So yeah, he's always popping up all over the place, definitely. So no, guys, we're not live on YouTube anymore. The replay will go live on YouTube. We're only going live through the Facebook groups now. We made that change a couple of weeks ago. So hi, Liam. I'm just saying hello to everyone as well. Marta, she says, just got back from sunny Cancun. Was thinking about how great it would be to stay. Wouldn't that be nice?
I lived in Cancun 5 months. It just got too hot during the summer. It was like, oh my god. And I only went to the beach 3 times in a year. So yeah, it's good, but it's not like I wouldn't want to live out there and work. Should we say that? Like, beach is fine, but retirement's not my plan right now.
No, not at the moment. Do you take mini retirements?
How do you mean?
It was a little bit of a random question I just threw in there. So one of the first motivational books I think I ever read years and years ago was, I can't remember the title of it, but it spoke very much about taking kind of mini retirements throughout your life, you know, not working to retire essentially. So periods of time where you can spend time with family, friends, or whatever. I suppose because you travel so much, maybe it is an offshoot of that. And I think I was always really conscious of it because I was one of those people that had a granddad, and bless him, he worked all his life to retire, and he died within 3 months of retirement. You know, it's one of those. So it always became a lesson to me. And we were talking about it beforehand of, you know, sometimes of taking that time to be with the kids and that type of thing. I'm just wondering, how much do you separate from your business, or are you always in it?
The business is structured so that I can operate it down to the worst case scenario is like 1 hour a week. That's moving money. A more kind of like viable is like 3 hours a week. And that's kind of like minimum operating, should we say, requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd probably say that, like, if I had to, 5 to 7 hours a week would probably be about normal if I wanted to just like travel for quite some time. And then outside of that is if I really ramp up, you know, you can get as many as you like. You know, there's always work to find to do. But coming back to the specific question, do I take many retirements? Yeah, I find like I'm one of these people that long before I even started the entrepreneurial journey, you know, I used to be like a bar manager in Vodka Revolutions. I still remember at the time, my girlfriend at the time, we went on holiday, and I brought my laptop with me, and after the first day I got back on the laptop and carried on doing some work. And it wasn't because like it's work, it's because to me it's play. I quite enjoy it. Like, I learn, and like it's learning, should we say. That's what I really enjoy. So even like this year, where I basically took a month to go to the Philippines. So I did Mexico City, Orlando, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, off to all the Philippines. I did like Manila, Davao, CDO, Boracay, El Nido, back to Manila. Then I did Qatar, Madrid, and then Mexico City on the way back. So like in 1 month, pretty much traveled the entire world, all 5-star, you know, like business class flights, like really, really nice. And for me, that like, I didn't like, we spent 4 days doing a planning session with my team, and they were like 12-hour days. They were long, but I loved every minute of it, like absolutely every minute of it. So, and I think the thing is people ask me this question sometimes, do you not feel like you're always working? And it's kind of like, my work can be analyzing keeper deals, for example, or it can be looking at reports, or it can be recording YouTube videos, interviewing great, interesting people, you know, thinking about marketing content, thinking about like software development. It could be like, there's so much variety in what I do that every day is an exciting day. And if I'm bored of something, I'll just stop doing it for a while and then go do something else in my business. And it might be like, I'm bored, I want to travel. Cool, where should we go? Let's go to Miami. Let's go find some Amazon sellers there and do that. Like, cool, that sounds great. That's fun.
That's a pretty cool part.
Yeah.
What is it? I don't think I've ever asked you this. What is it you enjoy most in your? What does Tom enjoy doing most in your business?
Well, there's an interesting question you asked at the very beginning. It's like, why do you do it? What do you do? And the question I kind of asked myself is that question again 10, 13 years ago. So what do you want? Like, if money was no object today, what would you do? And my answer was, I would travel the world, meet very fascinating people. I would learn from them and have a go at doing it myself and talk about it on the journey, which is kind of like what I do. So I meet interesting people who do it. I share the journey. I learn from them. I do a lot of interviewing. So what do I enjoy doing? Like, I'm a creative person. I think as entrepreneurs, we are creative by our very nature. We're visionaries. And like, when I sit down and have a conversation with people and we talk about what does the future hold, what's the opportunity available, I find that fascinating. And then my logical brain kicks in where we're like, right, how do you get there? Like, what's the route? And then we start planning it out, and then we start going into the detail of it all. And then it's like, cool, I understand. And then my question is, do I understand conceptually how to achieve it? And then once you understand it on a high level, then you can start implementing it. And that's about people, teams, systems, processes, for example. So what do I enjoy? I get excited by the opportunity that the world provides us. And like, my God, like what you do, you go to Florida, you go on your holidays, you pay for it with cards, points. Like, 10 years ago, you couldn't, traveling, working abroad was impossible. Now with COVID, it's really common. The question is, where will it be in the next 10 years? And I'm like, this is incredible. I do find it fascinating. And I'm excited by that, and I enjoy that. And we talk like people are like, oh my God, like you work too much, or like that sounds like thing. It's like, as they say, is when work is play to you, every day is just fun. Like you love every day. And like, I really believe in that. And I think if you don't enjoy what you do, then why the fuck are you doing it?
Yeah.
Stop doing it. Start doing something you enjoy, and then you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a really clear message in that by doing this, we get the freedom of choice, and we get the opportunity to be able to do what we do want to do, and anything that we don't want to do, we can outsource, because it's the type of model, even if you're just in the selling side of it, strip back everything else, it is something that if there's nothing you particularly want to do, you work till you get it to a certain level, then you can bring someone else in to do it, and you can focus your effort on everything else. So yeah, that's really interesting. So like I said, I've never been someone that wanted to travel, but what I am and what I absolutely love is meeting interesting people, networking, that side of it. So that is an area of your business that I just absolutely love, and I know it's sorry.
You can see it now. You can see it in what you do. Like, you're not traveling the world. You've got your family. You've got your businesses, and they're quite, they're not location independent. But also as well, you do interview. You talk to so many people. And I think that's brilliant. Like, and
do it without.
You've had to build that. Like, that's been taking time. And I think the question comes is when people say, "Oh my God, that seems like too much work." It's kind of like, are you willing to work hard to achieve a life that is literally just your dreams, or are you not willing to put the work in because it's kind of like, oh, you're not willing to put the work in because you don't want to achieve your dreams? And then the next question I ask is like, was it really a dream of yours if you don't want to work it? Like, hell, man, I'll work 15 hours a day if I have to, if it means I can live my very best life. Like, absolutely fine. I have no question about that. The last thing I want is to work 40 years of my life in a job that I don't enjoy, that I can die three weeks after, unfortunately. That I just don't think that's a great place to be. No disrespect to your uncle at all.
No, granddad. No, absolutely. Biggest life lesson. And I think there must have been a subconscious, and I talk about it in the Hive, talk about it, to clients and things like that. I use that example so much. And I think I didn't come from a very entrepreneurial family in any way. They're very much like, get a mortgage, pay off your mortgage, retire, that type of thing. But that situation with my granddad, it always stuck with me. And there must be something in that has fueled me to do what I do. There must be, even if, from an early age, I was very much aware of it. And I was like, God, that sucks. That really sucks. Imagine working your whole life to retire. I mean, obviously he didn't know about it because he died, and then just dying, horrendous, absolutely, an example of the guys that went down, to view the Titanic. I've seen a lot of people that unfortunately died. I've seen a lot of people have come out and said, you know what, those guys, apart from probably with the exception of the younger guy, they may not have had it, and they may not have wanted it any other way, because they were doing something that they were exploring and loving, and that type of thing. So it comes into that. You've got to love what you do. And like Hayden says, never feels like work when you love it, for sure. Hayden says, I travel and I eat, but I need to dance and meet more sellers. There we go. You
Come
need
to
to do
Mexico, you can
like,
learn.
I think, Tom, you could set up like a salsa Amazon seller seminar in Mexico.
Hell no. My God. I'm not like, it's really funny. It's kind of like, it's like that expectation, you know, like it's what's it called? Obviously you do courses education, I do courses education, should we say. What's really interesting is I don't know if you know a statistic, Mindvalley, like one of the biggest course providers in the world. They say on their statistic for people completing courses is 7%. It's like so low. And like, it's no disrespect to the people creating the courses. What's really interesting is the fact that, and I had this kind of like what's it called, conundrum or like worry or internal like problem where I'm like people are buying my stuff, but they're not completing it. And then I listened to Naval, which was really interesting. It was like, look, the agreement I have with everyone is the fact that I will share everything that I've got with you, but whether you do it or not, I don't care, because I'm not going to put my happiness in your hands. So when you talk about like, that's a real summary, but Naval's an interesting guy, you know, founder of Angel List, grew up poor in India, which is very interesting. But when you talk about like need to travel and dance and do it all, it's like, oh my God, all I'm going to do is put expectation on me that I have to provide for other people. And it's like, that's pressure. And I'm like, I try and make sure I have no pressure at all. And again, we talk about freedom. Like, I want to make sure I've got freedom, and because if one day I go, you know what, I just want to have a mini retirement. Fine, let's go do a mini retirement. I'm dropping down to 3 hours a week. I'm done. Like, I can deal with that.
I think that's one of the biggest, probably one of the biggest mindset shifts that people have to consider by transitioning from a normal 9-to-5 job to an everyday life is that shift of not being answerable to anyone, not being accountable to anyone but yourself or partner or whatever. And it's so funny that you said that, because I've had that conversation with quite a few people who are maybe going into the education field or course field. And one thing I've always been all right with, because I think it's, I know the onus is on me to put out as best quality content as I can that is proven. So that's one area that I kind of sort of like say, and I say, look, all the resources are there. It's up to you to do it. It's as simple as that. And you have to have that element of being able to do it. But it's so interesting because when you do it, and depending on what type of platform you have, you can see how much people look at the content and at what percentage. And it's a really low amount that people actually do it, and it's for a number of different reasons. One, it could well be that they've got all they need to at that point and they can just run with it or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's all up to you guys. You've got to be able to put into action what you're learning. You know, you don't need to do it 100%, but just little bits at a time, compounding steps, definitely. So we've got loads of comments coming in. I want to talk about something specific in a moment, but I don't want to ignore the people that are tuning in to see you, Tom. So Daniel says, hello, gorgeous. And he's clearly talking about you, of course. David's joined us as well. Sean says that this is interesting. I find traveling expensive, but if I was renting and I had lots of bills to pay, maybe I'd rather travel and spend money on traveling bills. So that's quite an interesting one, because if well, I don't want to say anything, you know, personal, but from conversations we've had, you don't have any financial commitments elsewhere, right? So what I mean by that is, you know, you don't have kids, you don't have family, you don't have a mortgage back in the UK. So traveling can't be expensive to you because they would be cost you'd be spending here anyway, right?
Let me put it another way. You own a prep center, don't you?
Well, not anymore, but yes.
Okay. So, but you own like a business, for example, and it maybe has staff. And by the way, that has a cost. Like, that's expensive. How do you travel with that? It's like, it's all relative. We all have expenses. My God, like, you know, you have to pay for StreamYard, for example. That costs money. How do you travel when you have to pay for StreamYard? Like, it's nothing. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to priorities. That's it. It's like, what's your priority? If you want to travel and you've got these costs, then you will find a way. Like, and by the way, like, you know, even if you're spending £5,000 a month on rent, like you can still travel, just earn 10,000.
Yeah,
like, or rent out the house. Like, you know, it's like, how many times people come up to you and go, I'm trying to source for products, but I'm finding it really hard. And you're like, okay, tell me what you've done. And like, they've told you like, I tried for like 3 hours once. And you're like, well, you didn't find a way. Like, you didn't figure it out. And like, you know, we all have bills to pay. My God, I have bills in Mexico City I have to pay. And if you would rather travel than pay bills, then find a way to make it happen. That's it. It's like the question I would ask is, how much do you really want it? Or is it? And by the way, I'm not. And by the way, no disrespect. You know, I think it's Sean. Obviously, we both know Sean. I've met him as well. But no disrespect to Sean. But I say it's more in a general term. Is the fact that you want a lot of things in life. Like naturally, like, oh, I see a green Lamborghini. I want a green Lamborghini. Cool. I don't. But like, by the way, but like. There's an old Buddhist saying, which is like, desire is a contract we make with ourselves to be unhappy until we have what we want. And I think it's really interesting when you listen to that, you realize that the more I want, the more unhappy I'm going to be. So to be happy, start wanting for less. And if you think about it, it's like, do I like, by the way, and then if you want something and you're not doing anything about it, then ask yourself, do I really want it? Like Sean says, I want to travel, but if you've wanted to travel for 4 years and you've never really done it, then stop telling yourself that story, because it probably isn't true. Because if it was, you would have done something about it. And I say that in a loving way, in the fact that to say, stop putting that expectation on yourself that you should travel, because all you're going to do is say, oh, I want this. And you're like, no, I'm happy. I'm happy where I am. I'll go on holiday once every 2 weeks and I'm cool with that. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
just
it's
keep it simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about knowing what you want and knowing what you don't want. And I think sometimes it's important to know what you don't want. I like going to different places and things like that, but I know I don't want to travel. It's not for me. It doesn't mean, you know, it's one of those things. I know that I don't want to do it. The thought of, you know, going from place to place and upsip it could be a kid's thing, you know, dragging my kids around, getting nagged at, you know, that type of thing. You know, that could be an element, but there's just certain things, you know, you don't want to do and you don't want to do. But I get what Sean's saying. It's obviously if you're doing both, but go and travel, be free. I've got a friend actually that owns a villa in Mallorca, which I'm going to next month. And there's always a way to do things. So they have the cost of living here and having there. So what do they do when they're over there? They Airbnb their house here. So
you find a way.
You find a way. Find a way.
Oh my God, obviously, I don't know too much about the UK, but the number of Americans I meet who are like, hey, I'm going to come spend 3 months in Mexico or something. I'm like, cool. And they're like, yeah, we rented out our apartment. We now make more money from the apartment than the cost in Mexico. So we might stay longer. I'm like, wow, like, well done to you. But people are like, until you like experience the change, you don't realize it. It's kind of like going from a job to selling on Amazon. It's hard to start with, but once you start getting it going, you're like, wow, why did I wait so long?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a really interesting place.
Ash has joined us. He says, hello, beautiful people. Hello. Lots of lovely comments. It's definitely down to you today, Tom, for sure. Hello. Yeah, absolutely. Hello, beautiful people back. Hayden says, I'm going on a podcast, 3-day event in 2 weeks, all paid for and okay, as it's on the business, it's classed as education. Absolutely. Always a way to, you know, expense things as much as you can. Dan says mini retirement, aka a holiday. Definitely, or an extended holiday for sure. Let's just see if there's any other questions or anything like that. No, one thing I wanted to talk to you about, Tom, a couple of weeks, well, no, it's probably longer than that, maybe a month ago, you kind of broke the Amazon internet a little bit. You became the subject on everybody's lips in terms of you made a post about a decision that you'd made within your business. And, you know, a few people were like, oh my God, the whole world's falling in. Tom's leaving the UK space. You know, does that mean that we should all be doing it? Blah, 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 as someone that is an influencer in the space. And I know that you've talked about it separately. And well, mind you, at the end of the day, it's I think you're very transparent in everything that you talk about. And, you know, what you choose to do is up to you. But naturally, what happened was, I think a lot of people started talking about it and seeing it as, is this a failure? Is there a reason? And you must have thought before you put the post out, was that something that you thought about, that people would question it? And I mean, it's no one's business at the end of the day, obviously, but is that something you thought about? Were you worried about that beforehand?
Short answer is yeah, like 100%. Let me put it this way. You sold on Amazon. Have you ever lost money from a product you sold on Amazon? Like one product? Like we all have. The market's crashed, done. So what we know is that it isn't always up. There are downs in that journey. There are products that we bought that maybe crashed, or maybe we got it wrong, or something happened. So we lost money. And I thought to myself kind of a couple of things, like the question came around is like, so the decision to actually close it down was made prior to the post, and that was probably like a couple of weeks before, should we say, and actually had been done. So it wasn't literally straight away; it had been done. Yeah. So I love it. I've never sold a product at a loss.
That's sham.
100%. I am I'm doing it wrong. I'm sorry.
There's quite a lot. There's a lot of sarcasm. I can tell the context of that.
So, but the question I kind of come is like, you're right. Like I am, like whether I'm big or not in space is debatable, but I'm in the space and people. I do have a following per se, and the one thing I didn't want to do is I didn't want to be someone who had this kind of like Instagram lifestyle, but never could talk about the other side of it, because all you're doing is putting yourself on a pedestal, setting up to fail, and then you'll just run away from it all. And I come back to the point about like, you talk about like, what's your dream? What's your retirement? And my dream was to, travel the world, meet cool, exciting people, figure out what they're doing and have a go at doing it myself, and share the journey. And I won't lie, I probably got pretty big in the UK. And the problem comes is that I was like, I'm probably a pretty big OA seller within the UK. And right now I've made a decision, which is the right decision to make, to close that business down. So that decision's been made. But the next question is, do I talk about it publicly? Do I share it publicly? And it was a tough one. Why? Because on an emotional level, I decided to close the business down. On another, you could put that another way, I had failed. Like that's what some people might say. And it's really interesting because all businesses fail at some point ever. Like they always fail. And by the way, OA businesses, you generally don't sell. So you always know you're going to close it down at some point. And by the way, all this is language. Like, have I failed? Have I closed it down? Like, my God, I got up, I tried, I made it work, and I did 5 years of loving it. And then I chose to not continue it. That's it. And I thought, and in my position of when I shared that information was about, I want to be genuine to myself. I don't want to put myself on that pedestal whereby I have to maybe deflect, can't talk about Amazon UK because I'm not really doing it. And, but I don't want to talk about it if, for example, we'll be like, yeah, we're doing okay in the UK, and like, that's it, but I'm not really, I shut it down. I'm like, no, I want to be like quite transparent about that. And also appreciate I have people who follow me, people pay for courses and services from me. Like, I want to be honest about that, because 2 parts of my life is, number 1, documenting the journey, and number 2 is sharing the learning that I'm going through with my customers and the people that we meet. And I didn't want the burden of having to carry a weight around that wasn't really there because of someone else. And I think there's a saying, it's like you see it all the time. It's like the worst thing you do is buy expensive products to impress people that you don't know, who don't even care about you. And I'm not saying no one cares about me at all, but what do we understand from those kind of statements is the fact that we make decisions based on other people's opinions of us. And whether we like it or not, you all do, it's a fact. And I had to really delve into the emotional state behind that, about like, if I say this, it's kind of like, forget everyone else, forget what they're going to say. What's the right thing to do? And like, I do have this kind of like inner compass where I'm like, I have to do the right thing. Like I have to talk about it. I can't sit there and lie to you. Or I can't like be like, yeah, I'm selling on Amazon. We're not really, like, technically I am right now. My store's still selling. We're clearing down stock. But it's kind of like, what's the right thing to do? What's the thing that's going to put me at peace? And at the end of the day, that's what I want. And what was really interesting is I kind of looked at it, and in the moment, yeah, it was like, you know, it was horrible. We have to let staff go. We have to make the decision. And I'd say I knew it would have an impact on Fast Track FBA and also the wider business. My God, you know, forget everyone else, the social space, just within the uncertainty of the business, we're closing a business down. That's scary. But then even the wider space. But I thought to myself, I was like, look, in 10 years' time, am I going to look back on this and be like, oh my God? No, I'm going to look back and be like, those were some tough days, but I made the right decision and I learned so much from it. And, you know, I will come back and say the last 4 months, I'd probably say, I reckon I've learned more than the last 3 years. And why? Because what's really interesting is most of the time you talk about kind of like building a business, getting it up, but also when you see a business close down, you see the other side of it. And we learned so much from closing it down is the fact that the staff and like where things went wrong and ultimately the decision to close. And we learned so much from that we implemented that in the USA. And like, my God, that business is like 10x better than it's ever been. Like, I'm really impressed with the team and how they perform right now. And we learned so much, we actually implement that in Fast Track FBA. And even my ops manager in Fast Track FBA, she was like, what did she say? I remember it was really funny. She was like, she's like, the number one reason why people quit in our company is because of me. I do too much change too fast, too quick. And I say, well, look, at the end of the day, we need to do this. So it's going to happen. Do we wait 10 years or do we make it happen today? We fucking do it today. Sorry, do it today. And then number two is the fact that we just, and then she's been with me 2 years now. And she's like, I've never worked with anyone who's moved things so fast, but I'm so grateful for it as well. And that's like, it's because we're learning, we're getting better. And it's our first time doing a fully remote company, or hers, and she's learning so much. So again, I'm happy with it. It's like, I learned so much about me emotionally. I learned about managing businesses, psychologically, and then also as well, it was good to share, and I talk about it. But I make not saying losses, I make jokes about it all the time now. I'm like, I meet people, I was like, well, I was a really big seller, but now I'm just a tiny one, so don't worry about it. It's good fun.
No, absolutely. It's so interesting what you said about the journey. We've had a few questions. I'll come into those in a moment. Is a few years ago, well, more than that, before we had kids, Matt actually had to shut down a business due to liquidation, which I won't go to. It was his restaurant due to the death of a partner in the business. And it was a very difficult process. And what was really funny, not funny, haha, but what came out of the other end of it, I remember Matt having that conversation, and having the conversation, I'm like, are you okay? And, you know, blah, 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 because, you know, you have to deal with, you know, VAT and liquidation companies and all of these things that you never think that you're going to have to deal with going into a business. And what was really interesting, Matt said afterwards, he said, it's one of those things that you always fear. You know, going through a liquidation, doing this, but actually going through the process, it was a very civilized kind of process. And it's something that he would not be scared of going through again once he'd been through it, because he learned so much about it as he was going through it. And, you know, it was always interesting to me. So it kind of unlocked a fear, essentially.
Yeah,
I know yours wasn't a liquidation. I know it was different.
No, and I think I use another good kind of example. I still remember to this day thinking about selling on Amazon, and like, oh my God, it's scary. I still remember this day, the first time we spent £1,000 in one day. I was like, oh, that's so much money. And like, these are all just barriers to really, it's emotional intelligence, the way you can handle it. And I still remember to this day thinking about moving to like starting a business in the USA. And I was like, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing, because limited companies in the UK are so simple to create. And like, we created the US limited company. Obviously, we trade in the USA now. And I was like, wow. And by the way, if you struggle with VAT and tax structures within the UK, and doing our VAT is a little bit complex, the way you can structure incorporations with the US gets very complex, and how they deal with the taxation of them, especially when you're dealing with like offshore entities, i.e. UK nationals, then it starts getting really, really complex. And I was like, I don't think I'll ever understand this, but you know what? You just dive in and you do it. And what I realized is that every single part of this success and failure is just another, you know, like book on the shelf of my knowledge that I'm learning, and just another thing that I've pushed through to say, I can do anything. And that's what you want. It's like we can do these things. I think it's incredible. Like, again, it was a horrible situation. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I'm super grateful that I did it. And I'm super grateful that I went through it. Why? Because I am a better entrepreneur as a result of it. And same
Absolutely.
as Matt.
Is there anything I would say, is there any such, and I'm going to throw this question out to everyone, so I'd like everyone's opinion on this. Is there any such thing as a failure in business? It's a very open question. Or is it a learning experience?
Yeah, look, by the way, like, if you life is how you look at it. Life is the story that you tell yourself. Like, have you failed or have you just learned? My God, if you decide to look at it in the negative aspect, when the baby starts learning to walk and it falls over the first time, you should put it down on the floor and tell it never to walk again, or never to even try. But it doesn't. The baby doesn't know about failure. It doesn't understand the social implications of you failed. What it understands is that I want to walk. That's it. And it's like, by the way, when we talk about failure, that's a label that we put on ourselves. It's a label that society puts on ourselves. By the way, if you didn't know anyone else, you would just keep doing it. Failure wouldn't even exist. And what you understand is you create constructs in your head, you create stories, and you keep telling yourself those stories. And I won't lie, like, during that whole time where I'm like, oh my God, like, it was a dark place for me, but I was like, man, like, I need to get my head in the place. I need to get my head in the right place. Like, and if I just talk you through, like, one thing that I really did was, number one, every morning I used to wake up, and I hate to say it, I used to read the Daily Mail. Like, oh my God, because I like to keep in touch, and it's like awful, but like, it's not the best newspaper in the world.
Oh, it's my guilty pleasure too.
Yeah, it's my guilty pleasure.
That's how I can tell the difference between the Kardashians.
But what was really interesting is when I would wake up, in the first 30 minutes of waking up, I'd read the Daily Mail, then I would jump on the computer, and I would feel it in myself that maybe I wasn't like feeling the best, because you know what, I just shut down a business and I just let my staff go. There's a lot of stress. So what I did is I put like my headphones in the morning, I listened to the motivational music, not music, talks, and when I got on the computer, like after those 30 minutes, I was like, wow, I'm feeling better. Number two, I recorded my wins every single day. Every single day I write them down. I've been doing that ever since. And then number three, like, I spoke to my coach. I was like, why am I not going to the gym? Because I realized the gym's good exercise. It helps break, bad habits. And he's like, Tom, it's really simple. It's not the fact that you're fat or anything. It doesn't matter. It's the fact that it's just not a priority for you. It's like, if you make it a priority, you make it happen. He's like, do you sleep? I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, and when you get tired, do you sleep? He's like, yeah, because it's a priority. And he's like, okay, cool. And the moment he told me that, I was like, right, I'm priority now. I'm on day like 42 or something. I exercised over 400 calories burnt every single day for the last 42 days without failing. Like, doesn't matter. And the goal is to be like, who are you? What's your priorities in life? And mine is positive mindset, mindset first, then body, then business. And I'm like, bang, do that consistently. But again, you haven't failed. It's just how you see it. And, by the way, it's learning. And again, fall back to the baby. The baby falls over, it's failed. Don't let it ever walk again. No, hell no. Well done. You cheer it on and keep going.
Yeah, definitely. It's that perception of it. I think you've just laid that out in a beautiful way, because like I said, it's also our perception and what other people perceive from us, and having that ability to be able to focus on you and your priorities, it tends to be able to block out the noise as well. The more that you can do that and stop caring about what other people think. Right, a few questions, if that's okay, because as we've been chatting away, they've been coming in. So I'm going to add a little bit to this. This is from Lorraine. Just wondering how large your team is, Tom, and what roles do they fulfill? I appreciate that might be a big question, but maybe kind of how has that changed since you've closed the business down in the UK?
So a couple of things. If I give you a really funny story, I remember watching a YouTube video like 2 years ago. We had 33 staff, I think it was. At my peak last year, we hit 88 staff, which is 88 we had at one point. Wow. Right now, we're about 39. I think I get a report once a month, it tells me. So we're quite a lot. So if we're going to talk about it now, so in my Amazon USA business, I think we have 5 sources, 2 purchasers and 1 admin BA. That's it. And I run that a bit heavy. Why? Because I don't want, if someone wants holiday, if someone wants to leave, I always make sure I've got a bit of extra redundancy in there. So I'm happy to take the less, should we say, payroll or less profits, so that I don't have to jump back in the business. Again, freedom first.
I was going to say, is that a result? Because I remember reading your post of being in a position, because one of the big factors in the position to shut the UK was because you were left devoid of staff.
Not really. I had a senior manager who was with me for 5 years. I'd met him twice, like a really cool guy. And then I had another senior manager above him, and both of them left in very quick succession. And we'd had another purchaser who was more experienced leave before that. And we were left with 3 less experienced purchasers. We were left with, like, because we'd merged the leads teams, like 20 staff. And it was like, I would have to jump back into the business for 6 months to really get them where they needed to be. It was going to be a lot of work. And the net result was like, I just didn't want to do that. Like, I really didn't. And then when we look at the UK marketplace, I was like, I think, I posted all about it. Like, the UK marketplace was like, the margins were declining year on year. We also looked at the fact that it was becoming harder to do the volumes. We were relying on Amazon loan functionality, or debt, should we say, every year. That the cost was going up, but also how much they offered me was going up. And I could just see a world where one day the minimum that they'll offer me is £1 million. And I'm like, and by the way, like, we had offers of 680, I think it was. And I don't know if you've, like, by the way, if you've ever opened your bank account and you've looked at it and you've had £250,000 sat in there, it's a lovely experience, but not when you're paying interest on it at like 13%. I was like, I'm paying £50,000 interest on this loan, and for the best part of 4 months, I couldn't spend it. We were spending 100,000 a week, and I still couldn't spend it. I was like, the way the loans are structured don't work well for arbitrage at very high values, and I was just like, do I really want to go down this route? And if I do, get it where it needs to be, the training, what does it look like then? And I was like, no, this isn't the life that I wanted to build. This isn't the story that I wanted to live. So I was like, no, let's just make it simpler. So hence the decision to close it down. But coming back to your original question, so that's the Amazon UK business. And then within Fast Track FBA, we have like the VA recruitment and training department. We have the UK lead service. We have a dev team. We have a marketing team, we have a sales team, we have the USS product, and then we have HR and operations and accounting as well. So, like, operationally, they all run. I'm only dealing with visionary and marketing in Fast Track FBA, and that's it. It's about 30, 38, maybe 40 staff. I don't know.
When you did your first flip on Amazon, whatever it was, I'm sure you can remember whatever it was. Did you ever envisage that you would get to a point where you had 88 remote members of staff?
It was never a metric that I considered. Like, people ask me that question, like, did you ever think it'd be that big? And again, it's like, that was never a consideration. It's kind of like, what's your vision of the future, and you define it. One of the defining measurables, or like none of the defining measurables, were team size. Because that wasn't what I was looking for. I didn't like, we had this big team, but it wasn't like that's what I wanted to achieve. Because my God, you could go and hire 88 staff tomorrow. It doesn't mean you have anything for them to do, but you can have it. So I was always very, very careful about what were the measurables you wanted to achieve and focus on them. And that's around like business growth, profitability, but also the hours worked for that profitability. Like, what are you looking at? And again, like, even now, my USA business, 5 hours a week, maybe 6 sometimes. Like, I do my once a week ops meeting on a Monday. I do a Tuesday kind of training and development meeting. And then probably like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if I have time, I'll just check some deals, go through, spot check, look at some other areas, have some conversations with people. Like, my kind of things, like, we just got offered $250,000 on an Amazon loan. It's like, whoa, that's my first offer ever. And it was like crazy. So like, I do very different kind of stuff. But again, even looking at different avenues we go down, exploring that. But generally, the team run it all, and like, that's what I want. I want, like, hey, we do over $1 million a year and like a couple of hours a week. That's the measure of success I do. The number of people you need to achieve that, so long, it doesn't matter to me, so long as it gets achieved within the requirements that we want. Hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. I'm assuming this must be Sean that said this. It's definitely a Sean comment. Your cash in the business must have been beautiful. That was when you were obviously not refinancing and closing the business down.
There was a point.
Or was it all money owed?
Well, I was quite honest. I ran the entire UK business on credit, should we say, which when you're running on declining margins in a marketplace is not, and the credit margins are going up.
Yeah.
Like, this is a bad idea. But there was a point where I had over £1 million in credit available to me. Like literally, I could access over £1 million in cash. It's like, whoa, that's quite a lot. We had like $250,000 on one Amex. We had 120,000 on another Amex. We had 100,000 capital on tap and 700,000 from Amazon. So really simple.
Wow. Yeah. A lot of sleepless nights if you are not that way inclined.
Yeah.
Definitely. Cindy said, well, this was ages ago. She's got a rush off. She did say earlier, you are the goat of fun. So, taking that. She said, yeah, she's got to go and do some fun stuff. Car brake pads, Tesco. Yeah, okay, we'll see you later.
Living the dream. I love it.
So I think this is Sham that said this. One of the best VAs that I got was from Tom. So absolutely, if you are in the VA business and you are looking for somebody to join your team, then for sure hit Tom up. We'll do shameless plug at the end, as we always do, and how you can best get in contact with Tom. Margin is being squeezed constantly. I think this is Phil. The COVID hangover is finished. Less demand, rising costs, making it harder for the classic RA, OA models. I think what's interesting actually is I was talking about this with someone earlier. It is about that level of, evolution, adaptation, and whatever is happening now wasn't the same 2 years ago. It won't be the same from now. I was talking about a specific model with someone earlier, and we were talking about, will this model become saturated? Will it this? Will it that? And I said, well, even if it does, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be the same today that it will be in a year's time. We adapt, we evolve. We're in this to the long game. It was really interesting. I saw someone, the COVID sellers, being referred to as COVID enthusiasts, Amazon enthusiasts that are starting to kind of leave the market and things like that. And, a lot of people made some really good money in that period of time. And maybe like yourself, everyone gets to a point in their business and their life or whatever, where you ask yourself the question, do I want to do this? What is the end outcome? Once I've achieved this, is it something that I conceivably want to do or can see myself do in future? And if the answer is no, I think that's a really powerful thing in business. For me, the word no is much more powerful than the word yes in business. Whereas I like to separate the two. For me personally, in my personal life, the word yes is more powerful than the word no in my personal life. And I try not to look at it in the same context, those two words, in my personal and my private life. Because if you say no constantly in your personal life, then you are not the goat of fun. But if you say it yes in your business life, if you're always saying yes, then you're always beholden to other people, and you're not putting your business choice first. That's certainly the way I look at it anyway.
Yeah, I think just coming back to that, I think the question I would kind of ask, like the exercise I'd say to anyone is, by the way, you have to do this all the time. Get a pen and paper and define what you want your life to look like in, each stage of it, 20, 30, 40, 50, for example. Define, and by the way, Tony Robbins' Wheel of Life gives you like 8 categories, which is, really good. And you can define what they look like for each stage. And then the idea is like, what you're doing is you're painting a picture of the vision of your future. By the way, it's going to change. It's okay. But like, if you write it down, if you have a goal, if you don't have a goal, you can't score. So have a goal, something to aim towards. And then when you get those questions, like, should I do this or shouldn't I? The first question is, how does it align towards my vision of what I want my life to look like? If the answer is yeah, then do it. If the answer is no, then say, hey, look, sounds great, but it's not for me. It doesn't align with this. And that's a really easy way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great tip there. Hot tip for anyone that wants to really think about what they want to do in their business and moving forward, and their medium to long-term goals for sure. A couple of questions that are on the similar vein here. And this is a really good question, actually, and I'm interested to know the answer for this. Did you have a lot of stock in the UK? Yes, I'm sure you did, that you had to get rid of, that you didn't so? And if so, how did you get rid of it? I suppose what I want to add to that is, When you made that decision to close the UK business, did your strategy change on how you sold the stock?
So I think when we made the decision to close down, we had like at cost, maybe like 350,000, 400,000, which is obviously a significant chunk of stock that people like most people wouldn't have. But we all know Amazon businesses, the fact that you can just throw stock in and then go on holiday for like a couple of weeks and then let it sell through. I just obviously had a lot more and I let it sell through a longer period of time. So yeah, like this right now, the situation is once a week, all I do is check all the stock levels. I check all the how we look at the financing and moving money around to make sure everything's paid. I think my vision of the way it'll work, like basically as part of the close down process, I did cash flow forecasting for every single bank account, stock holding, Amazon loan, everything for every single day between now and the end of the year. Like I could tell you exactly how much money I have everywhere, at every single point, because I needed to understand how the cash was flowing. It was like really complex. But once I did that, like that was fine. You understood like how the money moves, how much sales I need to make per day to clear down certain debt obligations. And then all we did was just all I'm doing is managing that. And then I have an admin VA who does customer messages, and she runs Fast Track FBA, but she'll just do that for like an hour a day. That's it. Stranded inventory. So long story short, we just clear it all down through Amazon. The second thing is the longer we get, what we do is we just some products some products we do take losses on. Like I'll just clear down the minimum price and say get rid of it, that's fine. But like I'm okay with that. Like that's not really a problem. It's like I'm grateful for the journey. We decided to call it an end. We just clear out the stock, pay off our debt obligations, clear out, and then carry on with the next business. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's standard part of business. Margin mixing has to be now. It's very rare that you would buy anything. And I think it's getting, especially for newer sellers. So anyone that's new that's watching this, I think a good tip or a good way to be able to look at it, which is one of the hardest things to navigate at first, it's incredibly unlikely that you are going to sell the stock that you source it at, the price that you source it at. It's really unlikely, and it's understanding that, because I think people get caught up with the constant moving of prices, and I'm saying that from a positive point of view as opposed to the negative, that prices are always moving on Amazon. So it's kind of a little bit, well, I was going to say naive, but that's a bit unfair on new sellers, because they are naive in terms of their experience on Amazon. But yeah, so it's a fluid pricing system, and it's you can't rely on that price that you source it at.
Yeah, I think also on the side note is the fact that if you're buying something at 30% ROI today, it looks really good, and it's from Argos sale, it's probably going to crash, because everyone knows about it. But on the inverse, I know sellers who are buying stuff which is loss-making today because they can see the market trends and they can see it's going up. So you are correct. They're not selling it at the price they're buying it at. They're seeing the difference. And I think that's a really important consideration. And by the way, there are just levels to the game. And that's about your knowledge, your learning, your skill set. And you always have to be learning. That's such an important point. Failure is just part of learning, the baby falling over.
Baby falling over. Lots of people saying no failures, absolutely not. It's a learning experience. So that's really, really good to see. I think it's Sean that said I failed at loads of things in life. I remember being an Amazon van driver, and I failed at that too when the van broke down. We've all failed at things, but like I said, all learning experiences. This is a good question from Aram, actually. What are the major differences, Tom, that you found when it comes to operating and growing a business in the US compared to the UK? I'm sure that's maybe just highlight some of them.
Yeah, I think lead times. Oh my God, it's hilarious. I can order a product today from a US supplier, and it might get shipped within 4 days. Shipped. We're not even delivered. We're saying shipped. It's what the hell are you doing? In America, it's okay to take your time. In the UK, it's why can I not have it tomorrow? So things are like take a lot longer. So we see that. I think our average day to ship to arrive on Amazon is 19 days. This means it takes 2.5 weeks before it arrives in Amazon. It's like, wow, it's incredible. The difference is just higher margins, much higher selling volumes as well. I think if we put it in perspective, the UK, for example, I think we were operating around 17 to 20% on the ROI side. Now we'll be operating around 30. Sometimes we can hit up to 40 on the good days. I'm like super happy with that. The team, it's so, by the way, I don't know if you know, there's a guy called Saros. He did $10 million in his second year in sales. I actually did more units than him last year, but he did more revenue because his selling price is 3 times higher than mine. So I did 3 million, he did 10 million. But what was really interesting is because he had higher selling price, he did much better. And I think that's a really interesting one. It's just so much more higher average selling price, the US dollar. VAT isn't an issue because they add on sales tax on top, so it's like a less calculations. But the other one, if you look at it from the UK perspective, is accessing capital or accessing credit is a lot harder. We now have credit lines from Amex, for example, from Amazon. But it's been tough, and we've had to review that way. That's been a challenge. And most people starting out, they're like, I've got £5,000-10,000. I'm like, it's probably not going to be enough because it takes time, and it eats capital.
And how did you navigate? Because presumably you went from having a UK aged account where you could daily. Did you have like the full daily? Oh, you never had that. Okay,
I probably missed it by about 6 months.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Okay, so that probably wouldn't have been as bad from you because obviously the lead time went longer, and if you'd have gone from daily disbursement down to that 19-day payment cycle, or sorry, the 17-day Amazon payment cycle, which I know you can disperse obviously percentage daily, that would have been a killer, right?
Yeah, but I never had that luxury, so we're always fighting it hard. No, everyone's got it easy like you.
Sorry. I know I do show off about that. Yeah, but saying that, when we opened the US, I naturally assumed that because it was a unified account that we would keep that part of it. But no, you don't, unfortunately. So I am feeling the pain a little bit, but not as much. Sorry, shameless smugness there. So Jay says, I've tried so many different businesses over the years. Each one is building my experience from the previous, for sure. Always experience building, learning experience. Here we go. Who said this? I've got to know. Were you ever tempted? Oh, it was Sham. Were you ever tempted to stick it all on red?
No, because it's just no, because why we like the idea of winning the lottery, what we realize is we haven't earned it. And I'm not here, by the way, I'm not a multi-millionaire, but also on the inverse, I don't live a poor life. I'm flying back to the UK next month and I'm flying first class. I can't really complain. And I think it's I would feel much prouder knowing that I've earned that flight ticket rather than it was given to me.
Yeah.
And I'm here to collect skills. I'm not here to win the lottery. And how many lottery, most, I think statistically speaking, most lottery winners say they would rather not have won it.
Yeah. It makes them unhappy. They blow it all. They end up getting into debt. It's all those type of things. It's definitely something. It's interesting that you say that. I think most people that have that mentality will always be incredibly successful of learning that experience and appreciating hard earned cash essentially. So yeah, absolutely. Sham again says, thank you for being so transparent about everything, talking about not only the highs but the lows of selling on Amazon. It is a roller coaster for sure. If you get motion sickness, you shouldn't be an Amazon seller. That's the way that I always say it. There's no such thing as a stupid question here, guys. So please don't ever feel that you need to say that on a question. But I want to know about the UK wholesale market situation. Asking a few people, they said it's not profitable due to VAT issues. And most of the people say USA is best for wholesale, but USA is good for both?
I don't know the answer.
Answer.
Yeah, but what I can say is like, because I didn't really do we did wholesale, but we couldn't make it work. At the end of the day, like the wholesale market in the UK is absolutely huge, and I refuse to believe. And by the way, it's a story that you tell yourself that no one in the whole of the UK has made it work. So once you understand the answer to that one, is like someone has. The next question is, how do you make it work? So you know it's possible. It is possible to get to the moon. The next question is, how's the rocket that I need to build? And my little bicycle won't get me to the moon, so I need a different ship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I love your analogies, Tom. I think the only thing I'd add to that is everybody's journey, everybody's journey is different at the end of the day. Like you, I refuse to condone or, acknowledge the fact that one business or model is better than another or works. It doesn't work. I've seen unlimited amounts of proven success in all different areas today, 5 years ago, that will be 5 years from now. Anyone that said something is dead, yeah, it's not dead. Nothing is dead. It just really depends on the model that you are working and under your own circumstances at the end of the day. So, don't listen to anyone else. People are overrated. Listen to yourself. That's the way that I look at it anyway.
People are overrated. I love it.
Yeah, they are. People are overrated. They are, for sure. Thomas, there you go. You're crashing the prices on Amazon.
My God, I haven't bought stock since February. So if you're holding stock since January, February, then yeah, fine, I am. But like anything since then, no, I've not bought anything. Buy some new stock.
That's a cheeky comment, by the way. So that's Phil. We know that's a cheeky comment. Just going over onto the other group here very quickly, because I want to be respectful of your time, Tom. What tips can you give? Again, all the questions when they come in, they're like 2-hour answers, but best you can. What tips can you give to a seller who's recently got UK VAT registered in terms of sourcing? Big open-ended question.
Yeah, like simple ones, like say, number one, set your calculator as, VAT registered. You can look at 0% VAT items, but generally I don't think it's going to work. Number two is just don't look at it like beforehand you were playing easy mode, like beginner sandbox course. Now you're playing real world stuff. Like everyone else has to deal with VAT. By the way, if you try and source the things that everyone else is sourcing, toys and games from Argos, yeah, you're going to get bitten because all the non-VAT registered sellers, all the beginners are going to do it. But go weird. Go like automotive. Like no one's doing. Like in the US, we sell things I have no idea what they are. You're like, what's that? I'm like, I don't really know. Like, what is it? Like, I have to research it. I'm like, okay, fine, interesting. That works because like no one can tell you to go buy this thing that I don't understand what it is. People buy what they like, and we're here just running numbers, running data. That's it.
I think that's one of the benefits of outsourcing. Your sourcing is that there is no preconception with buying. So like when I'm sourcing, I'm not going to lie, I'm really shallow. I only want to source it if it's pretty and pink or sparkly or something like that. I'm like, why on earth would I want to source that? I don't want to buy that. I only want to buy sexy products. And so when you outsource it, and you get someone on your team that has no preconception, that is just buying stuff for profit, I think that's one of the big advantages of outsourcing your sourcing, because I know I'm totally closed off to certain categories and things like that. So outsourcing that's a really sensible move if you're in a position to do so, I think.
Yeah.
Shahina, sorry, I know that's probably not how you pronounce it. Apologies. Thank you both for clearing the thoughts I have. Absolutely. Aram again. I think we'll leave this as the final question. I think it's a good one to kind of finish on. Is, did you start as a one-man band initially? And this is probably for people that don't know Tom as much, or with employees from the get-go. I hear a lot of people talking again. People are overrated, learning to source by outsourcing. So interested to hear your thoughts on this ideas.
Yeah, I did. So I started as just me. I think I did it for about 6 months, and then I hired my first couple of team members. It was awful, absolutely awful. They didn't show up for work, didn't do anything, didn't make me money. I went through a massive journey of learning, failing with VAs, and then eventually figured it out. And then we went on to build the VA Academy. We've done probably 700 VAs now. But the idea is that I think the way to look at it is capital, labor, VAs, code, networks. They're all forces of leverage. Now, if you know what you're doing, you can leverage that really, really well. So, I mean, you 10x something. But if you're doing it wrong, you're going to 10x something doing it wrong. So you should never look at hiring someone as the answer. It should be that I know the answer already. Now I want to do more of the right stuff. And so I hire someone to go in that direction. And they will continue to develop and maybe go from 10x to 20x, for example, because they develop. But the goal is that you should understand, especially, I hear it and I have people going, I want to get a VA from day one. I'm like, don't you dare. Like, you're just going to have a disaster. So that'd be my kind of advice. So did start one-man band and then built the team up. Built up really big, and then close some of it down.
It's that sliding scale for sure. Now, just before we go, Tom, one final question, then it'll be shameless plug time. I couldn't let you go without asking this, especially for the people who may have not, been following your journey or aware of who you are. To me, you are definitely one of the goats, if not the goatiest, when it comes to running a business where you can travel the world and have that location independence. So for anyone out there that wants to follow down that route, go down that route of building a business where they're not location dependent, what's the one bit of advice that you would give to someone who's looking to build that entrepreneurial journey?
Oh my God, that's quite a challenging one. I think kind of the questions I think the question is if you want to build a location independent business, you just, that's your vision of the future. You have to define that. So then all your decisions have to align with that. So don't go and do RA. You can still do one-man band, Amazon location independent. That's absolutely fine. That's the nature of it. But a lot of I've met sellers doing over $1 million in the US with just one VA. You can definitely do that. That's absolutely fine. I just think for you is just define what you want that vision to look like, and then build your life around that. Laptop, connection, maybe you have someone else checking your messages if you're going off on a hike in the Amazonian rainforest for 3 weeks, and they can manage customer messages. But that's it. It's not it's really easy. It really is. But you're probably just looking at thinking it's a challenge, and I generally say anyone, if you're thinking about doing it, go to Thailand. It's super cheap and it's a great place to start. And Vlad's out there right now, and I've been screaming at him for so long saying go, and eventually he got out there, and I think he's like a kid out of water. He's like, it's crazy. So just make the move. JFDI, man. Just do it.
Just do it. I think that's really important. And I think that links back into what you said earlier, which I think is definitely one of those, moments that you're, especially if this is the life for you, that you always kind of remember, you've just got to do it and find a way to make it work.
Agreed. JFDI. Yeah.
Absolutely. Get on with it. Aram says, thanks for taking the time to answer all of our questions. Absolutely. Thank you, Tom, so much for enjoying us. Well, enjoying us as well. We have been enjoying you for sure. I meant joining us. So if you are not aware of Tom and you want to connect with him, follow his journey, his YouTube channel is phenomenal, a wealth of information on there. Where can anyone find you, Tom, that didn't know about you before?
So Fast Track FBA, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, fasttrackfba.com. We do it all. I'll probably do a webinar next week around UK versus USA if anyone's interested in my Facebook group. But yeah, anyway, there I share the journey. I do what I do. My team do. We hire VAs. We do lead services and education courses. So we do a lot. We've helped people. Even Tim, the guy who did 10 million. He said to me, Tom, my 2 top guys I hired from you. I just want to say thank you. I was like, oh, great. So we do good people as well. So and he does. He does 4 million. No, he's 6 million now with 3 sources, which is incredible, and the biggest replenishable list you can ever imagine. So
wow.
So very, very interesting. But Fast Track FBA, you can access me, and obviously I'm there, I'm around, and I share my thoughts and what I'm doing on my journey.
Actually, one final plug for you, Tom, actually, is which I would encourage anybody to have if they are looking to pursue a business in the US. You have a great course that tells you all the ins and outs of selling on the US. And, you know, it's amazing value for money. So if selling in the US for you in the future and you want to do it right, because there is nobody, I think, that goes into, you know, in depth of what needs to be done and what doesn't. Like you say, America's quite a complex system of selling up an LLC and everything like that. So if you do not want to navigate it for yourself, then make sure you get in touch with Tom on that one, because like I said, it covers everything that you need to know about selling in the US. Even if it's not for you at the moment, it's something, if you want to do it in the future, it's definitely worth visiting and hitting Tom up for that for sure. Yes, Hayden, I'm coming. I won't be long. I won't be long for sure. So the US is epic, definitely. Tom, thank you so much for spending the morning for you with us. It is much appreciated. As always, I'm sure that you'll come back and update us in the future about everything that's going on in Tom World. And, you know, I'm sure we will catch up soon. As usual, guys, you know, when this replay goes up on YouTube, give us a like if you're watching it. Give us a comment. Tell us about, you know, is it something that you want to do? Will you be looking at selling in different marketplaces? Will you be traveling the world? Let us know in the comments. It's always good to hear. Next week, I will be back again, 1 o'clock. I've got Phil coming on. Who is going to be talking about eBay. So we're going to be talking about something a little bit different next week, a little bit of a change in direction about how he's leveraged eBay to fuel his business over the last couple of years. So I'm really looking forward to diving deep into that. Great session. Thanks everyone for your attention and questions and interaction as usual. It's been great. Well, we will catch up with you soon, Tom. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.